Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Chris Paris, and I'll be your instructor for ethics this term. And as you can see, I'm coming to you from the Batcave. So, a little bit about me. I'm a big fan of comic books, read them, working on a book on Superman. So, I really love the ethics of superheroes and thinking about that. So, if you like the movies or the comic books or anything like that, I'd love to talk to you about those things. I enjoy reading, playing games, and I live in the Midwest with my family. And I'm excited to teach ethics. And ethics is one of my favorite classes to teach because what I love about it is that anyone can come into an ethics class and you already have an opinion or an idea of what you're talking about. It's the class where I'm not just the complete and total expert. For example, when I've taught, say, a language class that no one in the class knows, I am the 100% expert in that class. What I love about ethics is that is not the case. You are bringing your own ideas into this class, your own experiences into this class, your values into this class, both personally and professionally, to think about ethics. And that creates a lot of fertile ground for conversations. And I love talking to students about ethics and hearing what they think of. And we might ask the question, and well, if I already know so much, why do I need to take this class? One of the reasons would be is that we're teaching you how to use specific frameworks and specific ways to argue about ethics. I remember my ethics professor saying one time he saw something and he just had the knee jerk reaction and he said, "That ain't right." And we may experience those things, but we need to be able to articulate why we think something is incorrect or why we think something needs to be changed or to be different. And that's a little bit of what we do in ethics. So we're going to dive in and talk a little bit about ethics and philosophy right now. And that'll give us a great opportunity to consider ethics more fully. So, once again, my name is Dr. Paris. Looking forward to working with you in this class. And so, we'll talk a little bit about ethics and philosophies. First of all, what is philosophy? Well, it's basically defined as the love of wisdom. If your name is Sophia or you know someone named Sophia, well, hopefully you're a wise person because Sophia means wisdom. So it's a love of wisdom and the pursuit of wisdom. And we take three major philosophers and ask, how did they define philosophy? Socrates says philosophy is a daily activity of questioning. And that is true. We ask a lot of questions to figure out what we need to do. Think about ethics as being like a diagnostic that you might do on a patient. There are questions that you have to ask to figure out, okay, what's going on. Plato then said philosophy is the acquisition of true knowledge. And I love that quote and how relevant it is for today. To me, philosophy is one of the most relevant studies of any time, no matter what you're talking about, whether it's psychology or politics or healthcare. Philosophy is always relevant. And that pursuit of true knowledge is extremely important, especially in a day and age when we have AI and we have social media and a lot of things that people are putting out there that may not actually be true, or it's finessed in a certain way to sound true, but really isn't. And then finally, Aristotle says philosophy is a science that finds the real nature of things. And we might not think about philosophy being a science, and we might question that, particularly from a healthcare perspective. Well, is philosophy really a science? I will say probably not quite a science the way we think about science today, but philosophers like Aristotle are known for thinking about the form of things and the essence of things and getting to the essence of what something is and what the problem is. So we might think of that in terms of scientific reasoning. Then it would become closer to a science some people might call philosophy and art. So if we think about science as defining something very clearly in critical thinking, it may come closer to our definition of science, although it's not quite there. But as we move through the course, you can think about, is philosophy really a science or not? Specifically, in talking about ethics and the idea of ethics, ethics requires problems for us to solve. So we're going to have a project in this class, and you will be working on a problem to solve. Ethics is about dialogue. So that's why our discussions are so important, because I'm going to share an experience or a story and might ask you, did I handle the situation correctly? Or another student might say, this is what I did. I handle the situation correctly. We see that a lot on social media now where people ask, am I a bad person or a good person? Who's in the wrong here? So even in our everyday social media lives, we may be encountering things that would qualify as ethics. Of course, we're going to go a little bit further and use frameworks like utilitarianism and deontology to discuss those things. And ethics is also about thinking critically to really consider issues. I might have a reaction to something and think that it is wrong. But the question that would then would become, well, why is it wrong? Why specifically is that wrong? And so I critically think about that, and well, and is it completely wrong or right, or did I consider where someone else is coming from and what they're thinking? What are the objectives of ethics then? Well, first of all, we want to ask, do we really have a clear idea of what ethics is? So we define philosophy, we define ethics, and we say that, oh, I might have a reaction to something. I would might be able to say, I don't think that's ethical. You may see things even today in your professional or personal life, and you're like, that's not really ethical. But do I really know and can I articulate why I thought it was unethical? Another question is, does an ethnician exist? We have all kinds of experts in different fields, but and you can have ethicists who may talk about what is right or wrong, and certainly you can have people in law and judicial reviews, but what about ethics? It doesn't seem that that actually exists. The conclusion really is that when ethics stands alone, it doesn't work very well. When we're just talking about ethics in general, we need to put it with other things. Ethics really needs a modifier, it needs an adjective. So, some of the adjectives we can attach to ethics are political ethics, religious ethics, legal ethics, business ethics, and of course, healthcare ethics. So, when we think about healthcare ethics, they may collide political ethics and legal ethics. They may collide with personal views versus professional views, and those things would be extremely important to navigate those things. What would I personally do? What am I professionally required to do as a healthcare provider? How important is ethics in society? I love this little cartoon because we're all wondering and we're all looking at things. And when we think about AI and being able to get the answer, are we looking off someone else's paper? I would encourage you, unless this class asks you to use AI, not to use it because you can just on your own think about the different ideas and respond to them. And you have some great ideas. And don't sell yourself short in thinking that you don't have a good idea or a good opinion that can be shared. I would strongly encourage you to do that. Don't rely on something else in this class, especially because it's ethics. The Greek word ethos actually is custom or practice, so it's has to do with the habits that people have and what they generally do in a particular given setting. So that's something to think about. What is the difference between morality and ethics is a big question that we might ask. We might have a personal reality versus what does the community do? Consider that question as we move through the class. And keep in mind that ethics is in dialogue. So does ethics concern all customs and practices of people? No, ethics deals with morally significant human actions. And so we're going to think about what is morally significant, what is important, what is key. I'm looking forward to sharing this journey with you in our study of ethics. And I encourage your questions and your comments. And I look forward to seeing you on our discussion boards. Until next time, this is Dr. Paris signing off.